Hey guys, Josh from SoccerReviewsForYou.com, bringing you an unboxing plus on-feet video of the brand new, yet-to-be-released Nike Mercurial Vapor 10 in the Hyper Punch, Volt, and Metallic Gold colorway. Now inside the box, as you get with all the high-end models from Nike, a string bag is included. This particular string bag is Hyper Punch Pink in color. You're going to find black strings on the bag. On the front, you'll find some black Nike football branding, and on the back side, you're going to find a black Nike swoosh. No Mercurial branding on the bag to be found. So we'll get that out of the way. And of course, other than that, inside the box, all you'll find are the shoes themselves. So we'll get these out of the box really quickly. And if you guys could take a second to leave a like on the video, it would be greatly appreciated. So here is a look at the brand new Nike Mercurial Vapor 10. Now I'm sure lots of you guys are curious about this shoe, and equally, plenty of you are probably very curious about the new Superfly 4. And that's something that I want to be very clear about at the start of this video. One, I am going to be working on getting a pair of Superfly 4s as soon as possible. Again, please keep in mind none of these shoes are actually released yet, so I'm lucky to have these a little bit early. I'm hoping to get the Superfly 4 a little bit early, but there's no guarantees there. What we're getting this time around is two high-end models from the Mercurial line, just like what we've seen in the past. You have what people consider to be the top-end model, the Superfly 4, with a retail price of $275, and just below that we have the Nike Mercurial Vapor 10, which is what I'm holding in my hands. Also a high-end model with a retail price of $200, down about $20 to $30 in comparison to the retail of the Vapor 9. So that's always nice to see, a little bit of a price reduction as far as Vapors are concerned. So again, the Superfly 4 and the Vapor 10 are both high-end shoes. During the World Cup, I can guarantee you that we're going to see players in the Superfly 4, and we're also going to see players in the Vapor 10. It's more a matter of giving you some options as opposed to one model being better than the other at this point in time. And again, I haven't worn the Superfly 4, so I don't want to necessarily say that it's heads and tails better than the Vapor 10, but I definitely can guarantee you that there will be people that prefer the Vapor 10 over the Superfly 4, and vice versa. It's one of those situations just like we have with the new Magista line, where you have your Obra and your Opus, both high-end models, slightly different price points, but of course both premium products designed to perform at an elite level, and that's exactly what we're getting with the Vapor 10 here. So as you can see, it's a complete redesign in comparison to the Vapor 9. Totally different upper, very unique upper, very unique shape to the shoe, and you can see the sole plate and the stud pattern has also been completely redesigned to go with this brand new Vapor 10 layout. So very excited about this shoe, very optimistic about the overall performance, a very interesting concept, and we're going to get into all that in just a second. If you guys are interested in pre-ordering a pair of these for yourself, they will ship out as of June 12th. There will be a link inscription to the review page on my website. Go ahead and check it out. There's exclusive SR4U coupon codes allowing you to pre-order below the $200 retail price. And of course, you're also going to find the high quality images that'll give you a better idea as to how these actually do look in person. So with that being said, let's get right into the video. Starting off with the colorway, this is the official color for the Mercurial line for the 2014 World Cup. It features a Hyper Punch base, Volt Nike swooshes with your metallic gold accent, and of course those Nike swooshes have a black outline. Now as far as the Hyper Punch base is concerned, online, in pretty much all the pictures I've seen, it definitely comes off as more of a red color, and I'm not sure how it's going to show in today's video. But what I can tell you is that in person, it's definitely much more of a pink as opposed to a red. If you guys saw my Hypervenom Phantom unboxing video in the Hyper Punch and Bright Crimson color, you can see there's quite a distinction between the Hyper Punch area of the shoe and the Bright Crimson area of the shoe. Hyper Punch is more of a pink, Bright Crimson is more of a red. There's no Bright Crimson on this shoe, but you can see it very clear on the Hypervenom, and I'll leave an annotation on screen that Bright Crimson is red and Hyper Punch is pink. So again, regardless of how this may look in the pictures, regardless of how this may even look in the video, just keep in mind that in person, it definitely is more of a pink color as opposed to a red. So I don't want anybody ordering these expecting red shoes and receiving pink ones, because they do actually look pink in person. As far as other colors are concerned, you're also going to find that Hyper Punch pink in the laces. The Nike swoosh, as mentioned, is a Volt yellow base on both the main Nike swoosh here on the front, which is very, very large on the Vapor 10. I actually quite like how it looks. And then one more Volt Nike swoosh right here on the inside. And of course some Volt accents in the studs, just like what we've seen launched originally on the Magista, but it turns out this is pretty much a theme for their entire World Cup footwear lineup. You're going to find this kind of circle metallic gold pattern here inside the Nike swoosh, which actually accents really well with the Volt, and that's in both Nike swooshes, and it actually is like a nice metallic gold sparkly type of paint. The swooshes are outlined in black, which to me really makes them pop against this bright pink background. Your ACC branding as well as your Nike swoosh on the tongue are also black in color. You're going to find black heel liner, a Mercurial branding here on the back of the heel in black, and then of course the entire glass nylon sole plate is also black in color. So that's pretty much it as far as the colorway is concerned. It definitely is very, very bright. So if you were looking for something a little bit more subtle, you may want to wait for future colorways. But as always with the Mercurial line, there really aren't subtle colorways available all that often. So if you want the Vapor 10s right away, you're going to have to live with the Hyper Punch pink color. As far as the upper is concerned, there are definitely some similarities between the Vapor 9 and the Vapor 10, but at the same time, there are some pretty significant design changes that make this very unique in comparison to any past Mercurial model. Now, the base material for the shoe is still a thin Teijin synthetic, and just like what we've seen in the past from new Mercurial models, it's a slightly different makeup of Teijin synthetic. This time around, it does feel ever so slightly thinner, but there is an internal support cage, which I'll talk about in just a second, and because of that slightly thinner kind of thickness to the material itself, it does feel much softer and more flexible from right out of the box than what we got from the Vapor 9, even the Vapor 8. So break-in time doesn't seem like it's going to be much of a concern with this particular shoe, just because of how soft and pliable it is from right out of the box. Reminds me a lot more of the Hybrid Touch synthetic found on the F50 Adizero, which is definitely a very, very good thing, and it's going to provide a nice touch on the ball at the end of the day as well. Now, in order to kind of offset making the Teijin synthetic a little bit thinner and not sacrificing the lateral stability and just tight fit that we've come to expect from the Mercurial Vapor series, Nike has implemented an internal support frame that is fused to the inside of the shoe. You can see it's slightly visible here on the instep. There's these little cutouts, and the cutouts is where there is not a support frame, and then obviously you can slightly see the shape there. And unfortunately, there's no tongue on this shoe, so I can't open it up and show you up close, but what I can show you is the inside here. You can see that the Teijin synthetic is backed in white, and then all the black area you see in there is actually the internal support cage that actually works with the lacing system this time around, as opposed to the support cages we've seen on past Mercurial models. So in terms of lateral stability, I'm very optimistic of this design. You can see that the lacing system is slightly unusual for a couple different reasons. One of those reasons is to actually work with this lacing system. So you can see it goes into the shoe, and then actually cuts across to this lace hole and then cuts back out to the outside of the boot. And you can see it actually lines up with every kind of finger in the support cage. So when you pull the laces tight, it's going to pull on that support cage and make for a nice tight fit and hopefully provide some really good lateral support. Very curious to see how responsive this shoe is going to feel due to its slightly thinner upper versus something like the Mercurial Vapor 9, even the Mercurial Vapor 8, which were very similar in terms of their Teijin synthetic upper construction. Now, as mentioned, I'm sure a lot of you guys caught on to that, and I think most people don't even realize this at this point in time. There's no tongue on this shoe. It's completely one piece, which is very, very unusual. I was not expecting this. I was expecting to be more of a traditional Vapor layout, but as you can see, there's no tongue whatsoever, so there's no seams here, which I think is very, very interesting, and is actually going to benefit the overall design of this shoe and the overall performance in a pretty major way. The main reason why I really like this tongueless design is it's going to make for a very seamless feel to the shoe. Obviously, they had to implement this slightly unusual lacing system. It's actually very similar to what we get from the Nike Magista Obra, but what this does is, because you have no overlapping seams here between the tongue and the sides of the upper, again, it just makes for a very natural, very seamless type of playing experience where you get a nice consistent touch across the entire foot, no matter which part of the foot makes contact with the ball. This is something that I really loved about the Magista Obra, and I know I'm going to love with the Mercurial Vapor 10. So something that I'm really optimistic about and quite like in terms of design. Visually, it also looks pretty cool. You can see that it's not a true tongueless type of shoe. It does kind of become a little bit separate from the upper at the top two lace holes here on the medial side, and then the top lace hole here on the lateral side. So there is some adjustability to the top of this tongue, making for a more comfortable fit. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are probably worried how difficult the shoe is to put on and take off. I will show you that later in the video, so stay tuned. It actually is surprisingly easy, and the fit is still nice and high quality, which is Obviously very important from any high-end shoe. Now in terms of texturing on the outside of the boot, you can see that it is not completely smooth. It has a very fine kind of micro texturing. It's like a slight dimpling, not to the same extreme as what we found from the speed control uppers on the Mercurial Vapor 9, but there is a very slight kind of fine texturing about it that surely will provide some additional grip on the ball. So very curious to see how much grip it's actually going to provide. And of course it's finished off with ACC all conditions control. You can see the branding printed right here on the top of the shoe, which is going to act as your wet control element. Again, it's kind of a gimmicky feature from Nike, but it's something that they always include on their top-end models, and it's always nice to have as a little bit of an extra. Other than that, though, you can see that the shape of the upper is very similar to that of Vapor 9. I would argue that it does seem a little bit slimmer in the toe box area, and it does feel a little bit slimmer when you put them on. I'll talk about that more later. But other than that, the general shape of the shoe has remained the same, even though they've gone with this tongueless style design. You can see that the cut in the heel is pretty much identical. And again, it's going to have that nice low cut, low profile feel that we've come to expect and love from the Mercurial Vapor series. Next, let's talk about the sole plate and stud pattern of the Mercurial Vapor 10, as it has undergone, just like the rest of the shoe, a pretty significant redesign. Now, starting off with the sole plate, unlike what we saw from the Vapor 8 and the Vapor 9, no longer does the Vapor 10 feature a glass fiber silver sole plate. Yes, it looked cool, but in terms of performance, I really feel like what they've implemented with the Vapor 10 is actually going to feel a lot better. Now, it's a similar construction to what we get from the Hypervenom Phantom. It's a glass nylon base with your split toe construction, so we now have that split toe design in all of Nike's high-end models, although I would argue that it really doesn't make any difference in terms of how the shoe is going to feel. And then on top of that glass nylon base, you have, of course, your stud plate, which has all of the firm ground studs. So what makes this different from the Hypervenom Phantom? Yes, it is glass nylon, but it feels a fair bit thinner, so from right out of the box it's a lot more flexible and just feels more natural. So there's going to be less of a break-in time here, and it will change the overall feel of the shoe. And you can see it's not completely flat either. You have this kind of Y bulge in the midfoot that's going to provide that little bit of extra support, that little bit of extra rigidity through the midfoot of the shoe. Again, kind of staying true to what we've come to expect from the top-end Vapor models, and similar to what we got from the Mercurial Vapor 9. This is just going to be a little bit more low profile and a lot more flexible, which is not a bad thing at all. As far as the stud pattern is concerned, this is of course the firm ground variation, as I mentioned, and Nike has done a bit of backtracking here with the Vapor 10 as well as the Superfly 4, which I thought was very interesting. We saw it launch with the Vapor 8, and we also saw it on the Vapor 9, a very unusual minimalist type of firm ground stud pattern with only 2 studs in the heel. And pending that you are playing on a very high quality, slightly softer kind of premium natural grass soccer field, the performance of that firm ground stud pattern from the Vapor 9 was absolutely phenomenal. It outperformed any other shoe in terms of direction changing and just providing straight up grip in pretty much all directions. The problem with that 2 stud layout is it wasn't the most stable thing, and it wasn't necessarily ideal for harder natural grass playing surfaces, which is honestly what most people wearing firm ground shoes are playing on. So you can see they've done a bit of backtracking. They've gone back to their 4 stud layout, and the studs themselves actually seem to be a little bit shorter than what we've come to expect from the Mercurial models in the past. So I'm not sure if that's just a visual thing or something that I'm actually going to notice while using the shoes. But again, they've gone back to that 4 stud layout, which I think most people won't be too sad about. It's going to be a lot more stable, a lot more durable, and just more suitable for a wider variety of playing surfaces when you're on natural grass anyways. We actually saw a lot of professional players wearing Vapor 9s with the 4 stud layout, including Cristiano Ronaldo himself when he did wear a firm ground layout. So again, kind of interesting to see Nike backtrack a little bit, going back to what they were using in the past as opposed to sticking to that 2 stud layout. In the forefoot, there's also been a bit of a redesign in terms of what you're getting as far as studs are concerned. These studs have remained very similar. You can see that these ones have more of a kind of angular design to them now, so it's a little bit different in that regard. Not sure how that's going to improve or worsen the overall performance of the stud pattern. I don't think that Nike would make it any worse. And just from the looks of it, it definitely does appear to be very, very good in terms of multi-directional traction. You can see you have a Mercurial stud right here at the tip of the toe, which is kind of a signature of the Mercurial line, but it seems a lot larger than what we've come to expect, and even slightly closer to the tip of the toe. So you're going to have lots and lots of grip when accelerating in a forward direction. And you have these two extra studs to kind of work with this toe pick stud. So again, lots and lots of grip when you're on the tips of your toes, which is kind of what the Mercurial line is all about. And then there's this one little extra kind of, I don't even want to call it a stud. It's more of like a blade bulge in the sole plate. You guys can see it. It's very, very narrow, and it's actually a little bit larger than you might expect, and that's there kind of as that little bit of last resort grip. We've seen Nike implement those little bumps at the tip of the toe that honestly don't do that much. This is going to do a lot more for you, and it's actually a very interesting idea. Again, it's not going to be super in the way. It's not really a high profile stud. You can see it's significantly shorter than what you're getting from the other studs, but it's a nice little idea from Nike. I'm curious to see how it's going to improve the overall grip and overall traction that you get when pushing off in a forward direction. So that's pretty much it as far as the stud pattern is concerned. It's still kind of a classic Mercurial stud pattern, but obviously with some modern tweaks this time around. And again, I think it's a really nice redesign, and if we were, it's a good compromise coming from that very aggressive firm ground stud pattern on the Vapor 9 and going to something that's perhaps a little bit less aggressive in terms of how many studs you have under your feet. It's going to be more stable, but the new variation of the studs I think is going to allow for the same amount of grip with more stability. So overall, to me, it looks like a nice improvement coming from the Vapor 8 and the Vapor 9. Very quickly, I just wanted to give you guys a look at the insole featured in the Vapor 10. It is, of course, fully removable. This one is Volt Yellow in color with your Mercurial branding here at the heel. It features a mesh liner on top, perforations throughout, and it's made from one single layer of black foam. Not the thickest insole, and if you're comparing it to what we got from the Vapor 8 as well as the Vapor 9, this is absolutely identical. So if you like the insole on the Vapor 9, you're going to like the insole on the Vapor 10. One of the reasons why the Mercurial Vapor model has been so popular over the years is people love the lightweight feel that they provide. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are wondering, is the Vapor 10 any lighter than past models? That's what we're going to find out right now. So keep in mind, this is a brand new pair of Vapor 10s in a size 9 US. We're going to weigh them today for you guys in real time, and you can see that they weigh in at 6.4 ounces. So that's down about 0.4 ounces from the Vapor 9, which weighed in at around 6.8 ounces in a size 9 US as well. It is a slight weight reduction, nothing significant, nothing that I would say you're even going to notice on feet or in hand, but a weight reduction nonetheless, so we can't really complain. I don't feel like we've lost anything structurally coming from the Vapor 9 to the Vapor 10, so it's always nice to see Nike trying to make the shoes lighter and lighter without sacrificing quality or just structural integrity. So that's pretty much it as far as the weigh-in portion of this video is concerned, and we'll move on next to a quick on feet so you can get a better idea as to how these shoes fit and of course what the sizing is like. Since the Vapor 10 does feature a tongueless design, I'm sure there are plenty of you who are curious as to whether or not they're difficult to put on and take off. And the answer to that question is, in comparison to a standard pair of soccer cleats, it is certainly a little bit more difficult, but there are also benefits to this tongueless design that are worth the slight increase in difficulty level as far as putting them on and taking them off is concerned. And one thing I think a lot of people don't realize yet until they have them in their hands is that this centerpiece where the tongue would normally be does have a slightly elasticated quality about it, which does make it a little bit easier to put them on. So just to give you guys an example here, I'm actually going to put them on for you guys on camera. So you can see, you want to just slide your foot in, put your finger here at the back, and then just slide your foot inside. It's really not that difficult. It's not any more kind of time consuming as a standard pair of soccer cleats, and for the most part, like I said, I was expecting it to be a lot worse. Alright, so here's a look at the Vapor 10s on feet, and from right out of the box, I'm really happy with how these feel. They're definitely more comfortable out of the box than a pair of Vapor 9s would be, and I actually quite like this tongueless design. It makes for a nice kind of compression style of fit where the shoe feels tight even without tying the laces, but when you tie those laces tight, again, it just increases the overall lateral stability. It pulls on those internal support cages. It just makes for a nice, secure, comfortable, and kind of zero space inside the shoe style of fit. So it's definitely a tight fitting shoe, and if you do have wide feet, this is probably one of those models to stay away from, especially now that it does have this tongueless design. But as long as you have average to narrow width feet, you shouldn't have any issues whatsoever. I have about average width feet, and I'm also slightly flat footed, and I'm pretty much at the max of what this shoe can handle. So if you go to the store, try them on, and can't get your foot inside, it's probably best to stay away from the Vapor 10 altogether. So in terms of overall width, like I said, it is a narrower fitting shoe. So again, if you have wide feet, stay away. And as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing my usual size 9 US here, and the fit and the length is absolutely perfect. So just like all past Mercurial models, these run true to size. So if you've worn Mercurials in the past, go with the same size for the Mercurial Vapor 10. Alright guys, that's it for my unboxing of the Nike Mercurial Vapor 10. I have to say I'm really happy with this new design for the Mercurial Vapor. I think that the tongueless feature of the upper is very interesting. It feels quite good from right out of the box. The thin Tajin synthetic feels great, and the interesting micro texturing they have in the upper is something I'm very curious about in terms of how it feels. It still has that Mercurial fit, and of course the new sole plate and stud pattern are also a talking point of the shoe, but I'm just curious about the overall performance. So as far as my full written review is concerned, I'm going to be working on that in the next couple of weeks. Going to try and prioritize this one along with several other big releases that have happened over the last 2 weeks or so. So expect to see that full written review go up in the next 2 weeks, I want to say. Also expect a playtest video very soon of the Mercurial Vapor 10. I'm sure a lot of you guys want to see that. If so, be sure to support this video with a like. If you have any other questions regarding this shoe, be sure to leave those down below in the comment section. And of course, if you want to see the detailed pictures as well as pre-order these things with the best prices online, including SR4U coupon codes, be sure to check out the review page on my website, linked down below in the description. Other than that though guys, subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all of my social media information down below in the description as well. And other than that guys, hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, thanks for watching.